All right, there we go. I've been working on my my green screen technology,
Yeah,
um,
that's pretty good.
and I just realized this keeps happening. It keeps using the same pencil. I pointed at it with my pencil, but my pencil is this,
Oh,
the
okay.
same color as the screen.
As
So
the background.
using it
Yeah.
as a pointing thing is
It's like an invisible. Yeah.
right. I could very easily switch pencils, but I just don't want to because this is like I have this fancy
It's
magic
kind of
pencil.
fun too. You can like just like make that line disappear.
Right. It makes me think of the that Critical Role intro where they're like, "And you got your invisible wand." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got my invisible wand. I cast some spells."
There's
Um,
like a cloak of hiding or something.
yeah,
Or just like
like a pen of invisibility, and
yeah,
so one of those like common, pretty useless magic items. Um,
but like very niche possibly
right.
could
When you need a
change the whole game.
cloak that billows, man, uh, nothing's gonna do it but a billowing cloak. Um,
Very true.
yeah. Adam, we're doing these little like character studies. I guess I'm calling them.
Yeah.
I'm real bad at landing on a name for video titles, but character study sounds fine to me.
Character sketch.
Character study was what I was calling it.
I like it.
I can't draw, so sketching might be bad for me. It'd be a bunch of various sized like big stick figures. Um, but you, Sarah, you're running Bud the Bugbear, which
Yes.
is a bit of a departure for you. You're usually our RP guy. Um,
That's very true.
and then you're like, I'm gonna try a fighter. I haven't done a fighter before, and like a big old bugbear fighter, um, with an int of 6 and everything that
It's a
entails.
lot of fun.
Yeah. Um,
It's so much fun to just run into the fray.
right. Be like, he's not smart enough to know not to, and he's just gonna. Yeah. So we'll start with like some backstory stuff. So is there a like a location that you wanted to be from? I know we'd worked out some stuff where you have like family and you've got like an inherited item and stuff, and so was it Asarius that you wanted your people to be from? The that city of beasts and all that.
I think so. I was imagining there would be a component of somewhat like his family is a generationally mercenaries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they essentially are in a lot of wars, and sometimes the people who hire them are were at war with the previous people who hired them.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah,
kind of how I see it.
I almost picture like a Lieutenant Dan situation from Forrest Gump, where
Yeah,
it's just like, well, my like my grandpa died in the war, and his dad died in the war, and his dad died in the war. Like it's just a
yeah,
revolving thing, which relates me to a side note I've been wondering about, which is we came up with that the bad dads kind
that's
of
right.
subtitle. I keep wondering if anybody wants to work in some like being a bad dad like into their backstory. Um,
Definitely.
it's like the
So Bud would have maybe before he left his home,
mhm,
maybe he, had a night out
right.
with the other bugbears.
The thought that I had with Bud, just because of some stuff we had established already, was that maybe in his like tribe or his like family unit or whatever, that it's sort of tradition where you'll have kids, but it's one of those it takes a village scenarios taken to sort of an extreme where you have a kid and then you just like hand them off to like the aunts and uncles and cousins and being like
Sure.
I got stuff to kill, so you guys watch the kid. Um,
Yeah.
so he's
And maybe
literally
there's just some kids.
so he's literally just like abandoned one or more kids to go like make some gold, smashing faces, and that's just like normal like for his people. Um,
Yeah, I definitely imagined he would do that and not really think through what that means or the
right.
consequences. And maybe that's what happened to him. I mean, maybe he
Mm,
was raised that way,
yeah.
just kind of like grandma raised him or whatever. Dad was always in a battle.
Hmm.
Dad maybe showed him how to do like a sword, and then that's
Right.
maybe
Well,
punched it around.
and with so many like generations of like dads like going off to war and like dying out while they're out in war, and like moms and aunts and everybody, like there's a fair chance of anybody just like, well, I'm off to do this job and I may or may not die while I'm out there, so good luck, kid.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, that could be a fun tie-in.
Or maybe the guy that he always called dad
Mm,
was like the one who, killed his dad or some, I don't know,
mm,
maybe
maybe.
side by side
I could see it
father.
as a he got like dad got killed, and then it's just part of the culture where it's like, well, I mean, if a guy that you party with dies, you're supposed to go like watch his kids.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That
uh,
would make a lot of sense
yeah,
for the bugbear kind of motif.
sure. Ooh, do you want him to be human? That could be kind of funny. I just thought of that. I don't know if we want to go with it, but the idea of like he's a bugbear, he's raised by bugbears, and then there's this one human who he calls dad, who just sort of showed up, and been like, hey, I'm here to take care of these kids because I guess I'm supposed to. Um,
I like that.
that'd be
I like that Bud wouldn't even maybe make a big deal out of it, and maybe
mm,
that's how he got to the point where he's sort of a little more sociable. He can carry a conversation more
mm,
than grunts, and so, even though his intelligence is 6,
right.
maybe he has a developed understanding of
Yeah.
interactions due to this.
And again, your model for the Int Six is definitely like Grog from that first campaign of Critical Role, where like
Yeah, yeah,
he's an idiot. I mean, he's learning how to spell his own name by like the end of the campaign. Um, but uh, that's the extent of it, though. The like he's never paralyzed with inaction due to stupidity. He just sort of
right.
like will pay too much or will charge after someone he maybe shouldn't. Um,
Yeah, like he knows that when you throw something, it goes that way. He's
yeah,
not like completely a fool, but he may be in a business transaction might be a fool.
right.
But who knows?
I think that'd be fair to say. Um, so that could be cool too, because the with the bad dad angle, um, having this human man just like in with all these bugbears, and if the party ever goes to meet or you like run into your family or something, and there's a human and there's like no explanation, just like, oh yeah, hey dad, and like
Hey,
you're like, oh yeah, that's my son, isn't it? Oh yeah, is he doing? I don't. Is he doing okay? I don't know. It's fine.
I
Um,
love that. I really like that idea.
right. Like, here's a handful of gold. I'm gonna go back to killing stuff, and like just like walks away, and everybody goes, "You just walk away from your kid," and like barely a pat on the head. Like, what was that about? Um, so yeah, that could be some fun angles to go with.
I like that, and he could have his own reasons for why he's like a surrogate father to all these bugbears running around.
Right. Yeah, that could be. There could be realistically, there could be like teenage bugbears around that Bud has been a pseudo dad to, and when he's been a little older, and it's just not his. It's one of those like it's not his responsibility to raise his kid. That's the community's responsibility.
Sure.
Um, uh, he doesn't consider himself like special to that child in any way. But now that he's like, I could see your kid having a flip of that, since your dad is sort of raising that kid, so some
Right.
human sensibilities go in, and then by like so many years in the future, maybe that kid might have a complex where he's picked up some human morality, on like the dad being gone constantly. um,
Yeah,
Damn.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, you don't know what psychologically can happen when you start having a human raise bugbears.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, when the kid you're raising could like punch you out at like 8, then there's a power dynamic there by the time they get to the rebellious teens.
yeah,
Um, so that'd be pretty funny. The
kind of like, what if it's kind of like this is horrible, but what if it's kind of like a Joe Exotic kind of character? Like
oh,
he sees himself as this bugbear tamer
mm,
that he sort of thinks
he
that
thinks
he's in
he's super
control.
rad and
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Not
Well,
exactly the same guy,
I
but
haven't actually sat down to watch that show yet, but
I mean, you probably know all that you need to
yeah,
know. But what I mean, but what I mean is kind of like this character who sort of thinks he's something bigger than maybe he even is.
Thinks of
But
himself, uh, sort of thinks of himself as like the Bugbear Whisperer, when really it's
yeah,
like, nah, man, these are people walking around doing their own thing. They just
yeah,
don't, uh, and they don't have like an int penalty. They're just culturally, they just don't care that much about arcane knowledge and stuff, especially
yeah,
orc tribe in particular. Is more about like, well, the most effective thing I've ever seen is picking up an axe and smash it in somebody's face.
absolutely, yeah. Especially if you're predisposed to have this long arm that can just lop things, or I mean, you're going to
Yeah,
gravitate toward that.
and the like the fanciest thing someone's ever seen has been somebody with like a glaive, and it's just be like, yeah, okay, I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
That's a good segue into part two, sort of with the build questions. So I know the one thing that kind of interested you on the Bugbear Fighter idea was like, oh, cool, they'll have these like as far as on a build perspective,
Yeah.
the extra reach on that, and then kind of leaning into it with polearm with a glaive, and going like,
Or yeah,
yeah,
some sort of. I don't know if polearm would be. I think, like as far as a feat goes,
mm,
with things like that, I don't know if there would be a good feat that could
um,
do anything more so than that.
well, I know
But the polearm is fun.
polearm master is good. So it kind of leads into like future feat and multi-class options that you might want to go into. The polearm master would be very good. The main feature of it is somebody you get. I think you get an attack of opportunity from them entering your threat range instead of leaving your threat range. And so with your threat range being so wide, out at 15 feet, someone could enter your threat range on accident, and
And not even realize.
not even realizing, like, they're not even coming at you, but they do enter your space as they try to go like around you to get to somebody else, and so then you get
Yeah.
that extra attack on them. And then the other part of it is being able to hit with the butt of the thing as a bonus action, so getting another attack.
Oh right. Yeah.
And with the extra reach, you're basically always going to be within range to make your melee attacks. So that's definitely
Yeah, it's definitely an option. And I know there's another one I looked at. Sentinel. Is that a feat or?
Sentinel is pretty good. It's less useful for you in your build, just
Okay.
because a lot of the features specify within 5 feet of you, so your additional reach doesn't give you additional area of effect on that.
It would augment it.
Right, and I think and it's actually technically less useful for you, because the attack for opportunity that you would get to drop their speed to 0 is when they exit your range, and they're already like they've already been able to move quite a bit.
Right. And my range is already way
Your
out.
range is so huge, it's like you would like miss opportunities to get that extra attack
Yeah.
from them just staying within your huge reach. So Sentinel's a little less useful. Also, I think Monkey's planning to go with Sentinel, because part of that does combo with his Echo ability.
Oh yeah, his echo ability will be good.
Yeah, and not all the abilities with Sentinel go through the Echo, only the speed reduction when you hit an attack for opportunity. But that's still very good. You just plant your Echo on somebody 30 feet away. They try to leave, it provokes the attack of opportunity, and then you hit them, and their speed goes to 0, and
That's great,
they're
yeah.
stuck over there. That might not always be the ruling, because there seems to be some waffling about that online with the rules people, because
Right.
it can be very strong. And I did a video where I tested it and ran like a little scenario with a like an Echo Knight fighter with Sentinel, a Battle Master fighter with mobility, and then a rogue with mobility. And I think the answer was like, the only broken one of these was like the rogue with mobility, because the rogue with mobility is just like, well, hit you, run
And
away,
then
dash, run away, and then just like
disengage. Yeah.
zoop, 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 just like just running by hacking at ankles the whole time with no
Right.
chance of getting hit. But it is very good though, so it's something to watch out for. But it's setting specific. I don't know if anybody's gonna keep freaking out about it, but
That's true.
yeah.
But yeah, I think polearm masters. It's a possible feat. For now, I'll probably just keep focusing on boosting strength.
Right. Yeah, you can go either way with that. Polar Master, I mean, it is very good, and it gives you a lot of extra additional attacks because getting that reaction attack when things are charging you is really good. And you could even get that as a reaction of them approaching you, and then they don't make it to you. You still got that attack on your reaction. That could be a
Yeah,
very strong thing. Um, but also, there's an argument to just like, just cap your strength as soon as you can, and then you're smashing, and then you can pick up fancy features later. Um,
yeah. That was another thing I was thinking is the fact that just even having that 15-foot range,
mhm,
just using that particular weapon already kind of is its own flavor. And
right,
so maybe not necessarily needing to pick up the feat right now,
mhm,
that's already kind of enough at this level.
right. Yeah, that seems solid. There's yeah, so we kind of went over roleplay stuff, and as far as the build and the construction of all that, mechanical stuff on there. Uh, the So you would just keep in mind you got that D12 axe, and you just want to be smashing stuff with it, and you're almost always going to be within reach to do that. So just run up and smack stuff. Um, yeah, it's. I think I've played a champion before, and it can be real satisfying, especially when you get all the extra attacks, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be throwing 4 attacks out this round, and one or two of them are gonna crit, and it's gonna be awesome.
It was a lot of fun. And I think I had Bud buy a bunch of javelins before we left.
Right,
And I was just kind of going to see how that went.
right,
Maybe a heavier duty ranged option.
right. It was one of those cool moments where I could see Bud doing it, and then like realizing that by the time he has them set up and like is ready to start chucking them, things are within his reach anyways. So it's just like he's like chucking these things point blank, and then going, "Oh, I can just hit him with my axe now." Uh, so I don't know if he'll keep trying that because like at this point he's like, "Well, they by the time I get these things out, I'm just gonna be hitting them with the axe anyways." Um,
Right. And that was, I also would think part of it is like the background I was thinking.
mm,
So maybe at certain times he's taken that. I'll just be the range guy. You guys take the up front. I'll just throw some stuff over this.
mm,
And it ended up being like, oh, I guess I am the brute force here.
right. Yeah, I could see actually that's kind of funny too because like even the main caster of the group has like this magic sword, so you could probably reasonably expect him to be like, oh, he has a sword hilt thingy that can be a sword sometimes. He's probably in the front lines too, um, but then that turns out that's not exactly what should be happening. But
Right. That was pretty funny too.
right, uh, so that's build stuff. You might consider this is sort of an eventually thing far in the future, but I know champion can be really strong mixed with barbarian of some kind. And like I know with those like ancestral gauntlet things that he's got, having a tie-in to his ancestors, so there's like an ancestral spirit or something barbarian. Um, so I could see that easily
Oh yeah.
tying in story wise, and then but having that option to go reckless attacks and just have advantage on like 4 or 5 attacks in a turn, and with a 19 to 20 crit range on all of them, uh,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy.
it can be pretty nuts. Um, yeah, that's so so sort of yeah. So keep that in mind on the. Plus, if he ever gets in a situation where something makes him really mad, then that's a good story opportunity to be like, I got really mad, and then I found a way to harness that anger. Um,
Sure, yeah.
yeah,
It definitely is ready to do something like that
yeah,
if we go that way.
pretty much set up, ready to go anytime you wanted to split
Yeah,
over. Yeah,
I like
uh,
that.
that also ties us into your trinket type thing that we did this time around,
Yeah.
um, where you guys blind picked the magic card art, um, and you got that sweet card that I forgot to look up the name of, but it's the Punch and the Bear card. And I always like I have some I sold most of my Magic Gathering stuff a couple months ago, but I had some draft trash and around where I'm like, oh, these are like 5 cent cards, and I was like, that one I was the bear punching card. I've always just like, it's a really fun draft card, or it was when it was out, and it's just like it's not a great magic card. It's like a fight card, and it's like 2 or 3 mana. Like it's not efficient at all, but it is like
Right.
you get like a bonus to attack and you punch a bear.
I love it.
I think it literally gives you +2, and then the creatures fight because 2 is usually the power and toughness of a bear in Magic the Gathering. So
Gotcha.
it was literally like the bear punch card.
Okay.
But yeah, just these gauntlets, just studded in teeth of various races, some various monstrous races, various like actual monsters' teeth are kind of embedded in there. And you've been told
Yeah,
to go
it's
knock
a
the teeth
great
out.
mystery. Where did
Yeah.
these teeth come from?
Hmm.
What battles were fought? What monsters were fought?
Right. Side note: what is your character's strength at the moment?
Strength at the moment
You know, off the top
is
of your head, or I think it's
18.
18. Okay. Uh, yeah. So those gauntlets. As a side note, there was something I was a little worried about because I thought I missed a trigger kind of thing. But
Mhm.
when you guys went and fought the ogre, when you guys dropped him, since you all have those gauntlets on and they are attuned to you, your strength is currently 19.
Ah, interesting.
That is an effect radiating from the gauntlets. So you wouldn't adjust
Okay.
your permanent score, but you have those gauntlets are currently sitting your strength at a 19.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I like that.
So there is a thing going on. They are enchanted and they are doing something. You don't
Did that kind of happen after the fight then?
It would have happened when you specifically it happens like when you drop something that has higher strength than you.
Ah, gotcha.
So that's something for you to try to accomplish in game is keep trying to knock out things that are stronger than you and keep feeling that effect.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I like that he would have kind of this side mission,
Right.
and even though it's less of the role playing type of character I've done before,
Hmm.
but it's still I've noticed like even the fact that when Doug's character had mine come along with him to the store,
Hmm.
it's just like the dynamics that take place are just absurd because he said it and he tried to talk to me in such a way.
Hmm.
I was like, he's not really explaining this in an obvious way, so I'm gonna kind of take him literally, a
Hmm.
little literally. I thought, and it was kind of funny, but I enjoy role playing that way, kind of like putting myself in a different mindset and
Right.
it's like I would never maybe misunderstand someone that way, but
Hmm.
maybe this guy would misunderstand it, and it leads to some interesting scenarios.
Right. Uh, and there there's a fun. I almost saw it like Baby Groot in the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie where they're stuck in the prison cell and they're trying to explain to Baby Groot to like go get this thing, and he's just like Baby Groot's like got it, walks away, comes back with some random thing, and he's just like no, like no, like and then not to that extent where it's like I forget I think it was like oh we need you to get this fin, and he's just like got it, brings back like a desk, and it's like no, man. and,
Exactly.
right.
Or like with the big bulky character in Guardians of the Galaxy, where he sort of doesn't understand sarcasm.
Right. Yeah. Sort of the Drax.
Drax, yeah,
Yeah, Drax thing where he just straight up doesn't understand certain things like culturally or anything, and
just
uh,
misses him, and he takes it kind of how you might take it if you didn't know that colloquialism.
right. Oh man, I felt like that in real life today, where my wife was like, "Can you go get me some black or some what is it like black milk tea?" And I was just like, some what?" And she's like, "Some some black tea milk," and I was like,
Never, never heard of it.
"Not I'm not connecting with it." And she wanted some black tea with milk, and I was just like, "Oh, okay." And like we had tea and we had like a pitcher of tea in the fridge, and we had milk, and she was like, "Give me some black tea milk," And I was just like,
Black tea milk.
tea milk, and they go get boba a lot, and I don't. I mean, I think boba's fine, but it's just not for me.
But yeah,
Um,
you're just not versed in
so
that.
I'm just like, can I get you something? And she's like, black milk tea, and I'm like, what? and so I
I
could,
love it.
yeah,
Bud might just say yes, and then
yeah, and then
just
like
go
walk
for it.
away, and then just like take milk and like put it in the stove and like get it boiling, and like put some tea bags in it, and like try to brew
Black
tea with
tea.
milk,
Milk. Yeah,
black tea and milk, and like
I love
boil it,
that.
come back with like half curdled like drink, and like, what is this? Be like, I made black tea with milk, and it's like, what?
I love the potential for that, and
mm,
and that is a lot of fun. Just that extra dynamic for the group, maybe
mm,
that they might have to spell things out a little extra and
right.
make a few mistakes until they realize.
Right, yeah. I think a lot of us have anybody with like kindergarten age kids, or we're like having to teach them math now, and um, and I used to teach, and I'm still sitting here like I get like the kindergarten lesson, and I'm like, all right, let's sit down and hunker down and focus for 30 minutes, and it's taken like a week for me to be like, oh, like, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
we gotta completely revamp our expectations.
for
Um,
sure. And I definitely get that because
mhm,
I've got the kindergartner, and it's like,
right.
yeah, right now, especially with
hmm
homeschooling. I
Yeah.
mean,
And our
everyone's
my district's done a great job of like lessons are pretty straightforward. They have links to videos. They sent home resources. They did an excellent job getting everything set up as best they could. But you take someone who's never had to teach kindergartners, on a regular basis, and you're like, all right, now teach kindergarten. You're like, all right, I'm doing what I can. Um,
totally. I'll definitely try to bring in some of that kindergarten flavor at times because I'm dealing with it every day.
Right.
So
And
it
it's not a lack of ability to reason. They just miss things, and then antics can ensue if there's nobody there to be like, no, no, no. What I meant was like to do this. Um, and
yeah,
it's not always a catastrophic consequence putting them in charge of something, but also
unconventional maybe.
right. Yeah, that's a fair analogy.
I love that.
They're fully capable of language. And they can if they pause for a second and take a moment, they can then express their idea that they meant in a way that makes sense to other people. But if you got them like on the spot trying to whip through something, it's sort of like, hold up, what? So yeah, we got a good. That's a good. I think that's a good framework for Bud.
I love it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
pretty
all
great.
about that.
Oh man, we managed to run through this in so far record time. I
Oh,
think
cool.
mostly just because weird deviations have happened on the other guys so far,
Oh, okay.
where we
Interesting.
just like random tangent for 20 minutes. Uh, where the two actual dads of the group are like, nah, I got stuff to do. Kind of like, I'm gonna run through this list because I got like 5 fires I got to put out.
Yeah, it is. You get onto a schedule
Mm,
when you're a dad, when you're a good dad.
right.
Bad dads
Yeah,
maybe don't. Yeah.
I've been feeling that a little bit. Like, insomnia has been hitting real hard, and I've been like, I gotta go to bed. I gotta start going to bed at reasonable hours.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, if you don't, you have to kind of be on your game if
hmm
you're managing children.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I got a
true.
lot of that. Well, man, I think we got all our stuff figured out.
There
Future.
was something
Yeah.
the character doesn't know about,
Uh.
maybe,
Oh,
or would you?
for the trinket. Yeah. So the thing you didn't know already, is that those gauntlets will boost your strength in certain
Okay,
situations,
so that
and
is.
you just got to keep punching out things that are stronger than you, and uh, and see how it goes.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fun.
yeah, covered all our angles there. We got story tie-ins and all that. Just checking my list. But yeah, I think we're good.
I
So,
like where we left our last game too,
yeah.
where it's it's just kind of like, okay, are you? So like, are you gonna pay us now, or
Right.
like?
I was talking to Adrian during his, and but with his character's background and perspective, there's this indecision happening, and he started that fight like on one side of it, being like, no, he paid us, so we're on his side, and that's it. That's the end of the story. Why is no one attacking this lady? And then by the end of it, though, there was so much waffling of everybody else, and he hates indecision so much that then he flips around and kills the guy.
That was the best.
He's
I
just
loved that.
like, no one's making a decision, and the quickest way to end this lack of decision making is for me to just axe this guy, and we're done.
It was so surprising, and but as far as Bud went, he's just like, we've got to replace those camels. Like as long as somebody's paying for that, we
Right.
can just keep
I
trucking
can
along.
see I could see Bud always being stuck on whatever is a problem that hasn't been resolved yet. And so there's new problems. There's people throwing magic around, people flying, people dying, but he's still like, well, we still haven't resolved this camel issue. And this is like, I can't be expected to move on to new problems.
I've got to find camels.
We're still down 2 camels. Like, no one's explained to me how that isn't resolved yet.
Like maybe the priorities are a little bit different than the others.
I kind of see it as like as an intellectual thing where he's just stuck on whatever is like, he's not terrible at helping solve problems, but when a problem occurs, he needs to resolve that before he can mentally like fully move on to other things. And so I could see that as like a running theme.
Yeah, like a single processing,
Right.
and then we'll move to the next thing.
Right. Like the building is on fire and he's like fixing the sink kind of thing. Maybe not quite to that extent, but that'd be like a hyperbole version of the thing we're going for.
I'm into it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty rad. Yeah, you guys left off with a dead wizard. I did screw up travel time because you guys are supposed to be a little past 100 miles from your location, which I think was supposed to be 4 days travel, and you guys only did 2 days. But basically it was just like yada yada. Like you guys had 2 other nights where you camped and like nothing happened. So that's not a huge deal.
Grueling pace with maybe 2 of the camels.
Well, it's funny. The wagon you guys have is just a 2 camel. It's a 2-horse wagon. You guys just strapped 2 extra camels on it for no particular reason.
Well, and a good thing we did.
Yeah, you had 2 camels to fall into a trap to save the other 2. So
that was a great situation where nobody was doing anything, and at a certain like Bud just kind of was holding on, but then we were not rolling our strength checks well.
Right.
And so I knew, because you were like, when we rolled poorly and the thing started slipping in, I'm like, this is a catastrophic failure right now. And nobody was doing anything. They were like, is the wagon okay?
Right. I was like, I don't know. How do you feel when like something is sliding towards a cliff?
Yeah.
Like
I felt like Bud was the only one who got it, and he just cuts the camels loose.
And with Bud's like strength and powerful build feature and all that, like all it would have taken was like a good heal plant and an okay roll for Bud to like
it was so bad of a roll.
Yeah, after looking it up, because Dylan's character is an orc, which also has powerful build, so you both have this like double strength capacity for like carry capacity as one of your features. So it's entirely possible if everybody like got together and like just pulled on the thing that it could have worked if people could roll above a 10.
That was what got us, and that was something I was thinking about was, hey, if we all just jump in right now, but there wasn't really time to coordinate it, but it was fun to at least try.
Yeah.
Like, since we're all these monstrous dudes, we might as well try to jump in there.
And that speaks again to that personality trait where Bud's perfectly capable of like, there's a problem, act, and like act on that problem. And then just after the fact being like, well, we haven't solved this problem yet. Like,
yeah.
And I could see him like if you guys got jumped with a bunch of enemies, and he's just like takes his axe out and is like killing things, but all his commentary every round is like where are we gonna get these should we turn these things into camels? Is that a thing we can do?
Can we tame these?
Can we tame these? And these like zombies are clawing up at you, and you're just like hack, hack.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I think looking up the strength and all that is fun with a character like this because I've not played a character with this much strength, but like the
Right.
pushing, dragging, lifting weights
Yeah.
is like 1,000 pounds or something,
Right.
just insane.
And some of that is a little silly because I think like an average strength person is supposed to be able to strap on like 150 pounds of gear and have no penalties. And I don't know about you or me, but I'm not going full speed with a 40-pound person on my back, let alone like 150 pounds of stuff like in a backpack. So like I'm like this
It's
is,
true.
and
I
then
mean,
it's like, oh, that 160th pound put me over the top, and now my speed is reduced slightly, and it's like, no, man, I'm like done for the day. Uh,
it's true, and the game has kind of ideas like points of exhaustion.
right,
It's maybe like one thing a DM could do,
yeah,
but you're right. I mean, it's sort of like you're kind of assuming all of these people are trained athletes at a certain point.
right,
If they're carrying this much of a load and it's just almost like negligible,
right.
but then suddenly 5 more pounds and they can't move.
Oh man, I just realized I've been improving my setup as I go, working on it anyways. But the one thing I still need to do is I need to get some like googly eyes or something for my camera because my eyes are constantly up at the screen or like down at the settings or down at my notebook, and I'm just like, oh yeah, look to camera. So I don't know. Googly eyes. That'll be my like final thing to get the setup all ready to go. Oh, you're still muted.
I was going to say it's sometimes a little eerie when somebody is really good at the
Oh,
eyes,
right.
the
Making
camera
the
thing.
camera eye contact. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, because I've seen this a few times, and I'm like, where did that person get trained to do that? That I didn't expect them to have any sort of professional video
Right.
training.
I think I saw behind the scenes on one show, and they had their camera has the text scroll that goes across, so it's got their teleprompter built in to where they look,
Yeah,
and so they have that. So when there's, I think it's like SciShow on YouTube, they want to, I think Hank Green, I think is his name, or John Green, I forget. But he had a behind the scenes shot, and it was like, oh, you can look right at the camera and read your lines because you got that thing.
that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta find two little googly eyes, and I'm good to go. Oh man, well
Cool.
man, cool times. We got all your stuff kind of figured out. I neglected to write down anything because it was all pretty much in line with what we've talked about before.
hmm
So we're pretty much good to go on that front.
Yeah, and I can maybe just take a note or two of what we
Sure.
said, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this was. Yeah,
Yep.
I enjoyed talking about it. And thanks for running
Yeah.
the game and the character exploration.
For
It's
sure.
fun.
For sure. And I like these. I feel like these kind of things happen in like micro doses in people's like session zeros, but I don't know that I've had people do a video thing where it is like a chat with the players about goals for their build, story tie-ins, things from the background they might want to work in, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like so now the only thing would be like whether you want to or if you want me to write up the that dad character that you probably just call Dad. You might not even know his name. And he's this old like adventuring veteran that your dad died helping him, and so he's responsible for the kids over in this tribe and all that. So
Yeah, I'm open to either way. I feel like I like when you bring in your ideas and it's fun to play off. So however you feel
sure.
that should go best.
Yeah. I'll just I'll throw a name and some build stuff together, and when he eventually comes up, you just call him Dad, and so that's all.
Yeah, that would be the connection. Yeah.
And yeah. Oh, that's here's a funny thought. If the guy you call Dad is that dude in the painting,
Hmm.
and you just haven't thought to bring it up as a weird thing, where you're just like, oh yeah, hey, there's Dad punching a bear, and then you just didn't say anything to anybody about it, and you didn't
Right.
think about it that much, um, and it just
Yeah,
kind
I
of.
like that idea that in the painting he saw this.
Mm,
It's just like, oh yeah, of course.
yeah, yeah,
That's everybody knows Dad.
yeah, yeah. Everybody he knows Dad, so
Like you know Dad,
yeah,
right?
you know
It's like
Dad, and everybody would know him because he's the one human in the tribe, and
it's like my kids say, you know how my dad is this, and it's like they don't know me. Like just
I
because you know me
that could be
doesn't mean everyone you meet knows me.
that could be really funny if that ever comes up in game too. If you guys are sitting down at a campfire and people start discussing the paintings that they saw in that waiting room, and then it comes to you and you're like, "Yeah, it was just my dad punching a bear. I don't know why you guys are making a big deal of it." And be like, "Wait, that was like literally your dad?" And be like, "Yeah, that's Dad. He's punching a bear." And you're like, "Wait, what?" uh,
So good.
that'd be great. All right, yeah, we got a sweet RP goal now. Um,
I love that.
That's great. All right. Thanks, man. I'll let you
All right,
go.
thank you.
Get the kids to bed
Peace.
and all that. I'll see you
Yeah,
Sunday.
thanks so much. All right, peace, Jeff.
See you Sunday.
Later.